A small animal steps out of a burrow with ears that look too big for its head. Its nose is long and pointed. Its fur is silky and blue-gray with a pale belly. A tufted tail flicks once, and then it disappears back into the soil. In country where surface shade can be rare, that tunnel is a private shelter. At a glance, it can resemble a rabbit, but it doesn't live like one, and it isn't one. This is the bilby, an Australian marsupial built for dry ground and long nights. It survives by digging deep tunnels, listening for faint movement, and feeding on whatever it can pull from the land. Some of its tools are obvious, those ears and claws. Some are hidden, like the way it carries its young and the way it stays hydrated without needing to drink. Where do bilbies live? Bilbies were once found across much of Australia. Now they are restricted to a smaller portion of the continent, mostly in remote arid regions. Strongholds include the Tanami Desert in the Northern Territory, parts of the Great Sandy and Gibson Deserts in Western Australia, and the Mitchell grasslands of southwest Queensland. These places have two things bilbies depend on: ground they can dig into and enough food to forage for at night, sandy soils and soft earth matter, because a bilby's safety plan is built around burrows. Their range is now patchy, which means local conditions matter a lot. If predators build up or habitat changes reduce cover and suitable burrowing ground, a local population can disappear. For a bilby, home is not one hole. It's a network of feeding spots and safe digging sites spread across open country. In some regions, surviving groups are far apart. Why are bilbies mostly active at night? Bilbies are nocturnal. They emerge after dark to forage, then return underground during daylight. In hot regions, that routine doubles as heat management. The burrow provides shelter from fierce sun and extreme surface temperatures. It also avoids the hottest air and the driest winds. Night also fits the bilby's sensory strengths. Its eyesight is not its main tool. Instead, it relies on good hearing and a strong sense of smell to locate food and detect danger in low light. The day burrow is a defense as well as a shelter. When threatened, bilbies can retreat underground, and they may even block themselves in. That matters because the open ground they cross while feeding can leave them exposed. So the schedule is not random. The bilby's whole lifestyle is built around one cycle: forage after dark, then disappear into a burrow before daylight conditions turn harsh. Why does a bilby have ears that huge? A bilby's ears look oversized, but they match the way it lives. Bilbies have relatively poor sight, so hearing becomes a key sense. Large ears help collect faint sounds, rustling insects, movement in dry grass, or the approach of a predator across open ground. The ears can also move and angle to track where a sound is coming from. This is useful for an animal that forages in scattered patches. A bilby may pause, listen, and then decide whether to dig, move on, or retreat toward a burrow. Those ears also make the bilby easy to confuse with a rabbit at first glance. The similarity ends quickly once you notice the long snout, the digging lifestyle, and the pouch. So the simple answer is, the bilby's ears are part of its night strategy. When vision is limited, good hearing helps it feed efficiently and stay alive. What do bilbies actually eat out there? Bilbies are omnivores, and their diet is a mix of plant and animal foods. They dig out bulbs and tubers, hunt spiders and termites, and eat large insect larvae such as witchetty grubs. Fungi can also be eaten when it is available. They may also take plant material like grass seeds. Some descriptions note that bilbies use their tongues to lick up seeds, which helps them collect tiny items efficiently. This diet fits arid country, where food is not evenly spread and can change with local conditions. A bilby can't depend on one perfect resource. It has to combine many small foods into enough energy to survive. The long snout and strong foreclaws do most of the work. The pattern is usually the same: smell, dig, grab, move, repeat. This flexibility lets a bilby switch foods as availability changes from night to night. How big are bilby burrows, and why do they matter? Bilbies use strong forelimbs and claws to build extensive tunnels. These burrows provide shelter from heat and protection from predators. A single bilby can have many burrows within its range. Some reports describe up to around a dozen. Individual burrows can be substantial, reaching roughly 3 meters long and about 2 meters deep in suitable ground. Bilbies can dig a new burrow every few weeks and may switch burrows within their range. The burrow is a daily base. It's where the animal rests, where it escapes danger, and where it can ride out harsh surface conditions. For a small mammal on open ground, that underground refuge changes the odds of survival. The bilby's body makes more sense once you picture it as a creature that lives in tunnels and only visits the surface. Why does a bilby's pouch face backwards? Bilbies are marsupials, so the young develop in a pouch. The important detail is the direction. The pouch is backward-facing. That makes sense for an animal that digs. A forward-facing pouch would risk filling with sand. A backward-facing pouch helps keep grit out while the mother tunnels and forages. Reproduction can happen across the year when conditions allow. Females typically give birth to 1 or 2 young, and occasionally 3. Newborn bilbies are tiny, and they crawl to the pouch, where they stay protected and feed. Some descriptions note that young remain in the pouch for about 80 days before becoming more independent. In a landscape with predators and extreme surface conditions, that protected early stage matters. So the backward pouch isn't a quirky detail. It's a practical solution to a sandy life. Keep the joey safe, keep the pouch clean, and keep the mother able to dig. How does a bilby find food without seeing much? A bilby's feeding style is built around smell, hearing, and digging. The long snout is a tool for sniffing out bulbs, tubers, insects, and larvae hidden below the surface. When a bilby detects something worth digging for, it uses strong claws to open the soil and pull the food out. Because bilbies can be exposed while feeding, they often stay close to safety. Some descriptions suggest they mostly forage within a few hundred meters of their burrows, but can roam further when food is scarce. This burrow-first mindset shapes their routine. The night is a loop of short searches, quick digs, and frequent checks of the surroundings. If something feels wrong, the safest move is to retreat underground. So the bilby's world is mapped by smell trails, digging spots, and escape routes. It's not a visual hunt. It's a ground-based search, done in bursts, with the burrow never far away. How can bilbies live in dry areas without drinking? Bilbies are often described as not needing to drink water because they get enough moisture from their food. In arid regions, that is a powerful advantage. Moisture can come from the same things they eat for energy: insects and larvae, underground plant parts like bulbs and tubers, and other foods that carry water inside them. When an animal can eat its water, it becomes less tied to permanent water sources. That can often reduce how often it needs to visit water holes. This helps explain why bilbies can succeed in very dry landscapes. Their survival plan is not built around visiting water holes. It's built around digging, foraging, and returning to the stable conditions of a burrow. So the key idea is simple. Hydration is part of the diet. The bilby's body and behavior are set up to make dry country workable. Why is the bilby called Australia's Easter Bunny? The bilby has long ears and a rabbit-like outline, which makes the comparison easy. But the bilby is native to Australia, while rabbits were introduced and spread widely. That contrast matters because rabbits are described as one source of competition for food in some bilby habitats. When grazing pressure is high, native food plants can be reduced, and that can make life harder for a digging specialist like the bilby. Bilbies also face serious predation from introduced foxes and feral cats. So the Easter Bunny nickname carries a second meaning. It highlights a native animal that has been pushed into a much smaller range. The point is not that the bilby is a rabbit replacement. It's that the bilby is its own animal, marsupial, burrow builder, night forager, and it represents the kind of wildlife that depends on careful habitat and predator management. Long ears created the comparison. Conservation is why the nickname stuck. Is the bilby endangered, and what threatens it most? The greater bilby is listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. Its decline is tied to several pressures that stack together. One threat is predation by introduced foxes and feral cats, especially because bilbies forage on open ground at night. Another is competition for food and habitat change linked to livestock and introduced species such as rabbits. Fire also matters. Changing fire patterns can remove vegetation cover, which can make bilbies more exposed to predators. In some regions, small patch burns are described as a way to keep a mix of habitat rather than one huge uniform burn. Bilbies can use burrows as defense, even sealing themselves in to escape predators that try to follow them underground. But burrows can't solve everything if threats remain constant. So protection comes down to basics: predator pressure, habitat condition, and fire management. When those are handled well, bilbies have room to persist. Bilbies look fragile, but their real story is survival engineering. Deep burrows, a backward-facing pouch, and a night routine built around smell, sound, and digging. One choice. Which feature feels more impressive? The tunnel system that keeps a bilby alive? Or the backward pouch that lets it raise young in sand? Drop your answer in the comments and tell me why you picked it. If you want to keep learning about animals, please like this video and subscribe to our channel.